Hello YouTube world, welcome back to the workshop. Because I had so much fun last week colouring and turning that Sycamore, I thought I'd do a little bit more this week. So I've already turned this piece down and I've left a small foot on there for the bowl to sit on, as you can see, and I've turned it and sanded it down to, I sanded that down to 320. I normally only go to 240, but I've sanded that down to 320. And I'll see what difference it makes. But I have to say that Sycamore, that piece I turned last week, was the first piece I've ever turned, and I have to say it does turn up incredibly smooth. It really is. You get a fantastic finish off there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to colour. I have a Hampshire Sheen intrinsic range. I have a flame that I'm going to use. I'm also going to use a honey. And I have some midnight blue, but I may use chestnut black. What I want to put first is a base coat. I'm going to put it on. I think I will use a black rather than the blue, and then sand it right back, because that will pick up all that lovely grain pattern running through there, and that will emphasise the grain. So first things first, let's get some black on there. So I've got the piece mounted in the chuck, and the first thing that I'm going to do is cover it in the black dye. This will later be sanded back. I am using rubber gloves today, I did remember them. The other thing, I have said this in other videos as well, if you're putting your dye on with paper towels, try to use a good quality paper towel, because you'll find the cheap paper towels, as soon as they get wet, they just break up and you just end up picking pieces off your turned piece. You just end up with bits of paper all over the place. So once we've got the black all over, we then sand it back. So use a very fine, I think I'm probably using 320 grit sandpaper here, because you just want to take the dye, take the top surface of the dye and the wood off, and just leave all the base coat in there, which just highlights all of the grain. One of the mistakes I did make when I first started using dyes on wood was sometimes, if you haven't sanded down very well, or if your turn is not perfect and you have a little bit of tear out, you think to yourself, oh, that'll be okay, the dye will cover that. But what actually happens is dye will sit in the tear out, or it will sit in the where it's not been sanded properly, and it actually highlights all the imperfections in there. So if you are going to dye it, your wood has to be absolutely perfect before you start dyeing it. You use the red. And you'll see with this red, where it comes over the black, you get a different shade of red. And also, if you go over the red different amounts of times, that also gives you different shades within the red. It gives you different variations. So if you just cover it once, you get very light red. And obviously if you go over it 2 or 3 times, you get very deep red. And it gives you lovely colour variations right the way through. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting the red on, just going over, and I'm trying to leave almost like a stripe through the middle, which I'll later colour with the honey. And then I'm going to go with a honey, which is a very light brown, almost a yellow. Even going over that and some of the places where the flame was, or the red, and that just gives that completely different colour again. Right, we'll wait a few minutes, let that dry, and then I'll sand it down again. So I wait for that to dry, gone in and sanded that down again, and then I'm going to do exactly the same. Give it another coat of red. And this is what builds up when you get a really nice deep lustrous shine on it. Now for the honey. And we'll let that dry. Next I'm going to give it a coat of finishing oil. If I can get the lid off. Why those child-proof locks are always so difficult. So next I'm going to get a coat of finishing oil, which will give that a nice shine, and that will also help to blend some of those colours in. That'll soak right into the wood, go through the dye and deep into that wood. You see already on that's starting to bring out a really nice shine. That wood must have been dried, what I think it's soaking in straight away, that is. Right, I need to leave that for a couple of hours. But you can see already starting to build up a nice shine on that. Nice deep shine. So I'll leave that for a couple of hours, let that first coat dry and soak in, and then we come back, give it another coat. I'm quite pleased with that effect. So what I've done, I've given it a coat of finishing oil, Libron finishing oil, and that is 5 hours to dry between coats. So what I normally do is I'll give it a coat in the morning, let that dry during the day, and then I'll give it a coat just after tea time, and then that'll dry around, and then give it another coat in the morning, and then let that one dry during the day. The more coats you put on, the deeper shine you get. Obviously, because there's 5 hours between coats, I don't want to be spending 5 hours doing the outside and then 5 hours doing the inside. So what I'm going to do is get and turn the inside now, get and colour that, and then I can put on the finishing oil and do the whole lot in one go. So next job now, turn this round. I've got the chucking point on there, so I can turn it around and hollow the inside of the bowl. So that's the bowl hollowed, sanded, and now we're just going to go to colouring. And what I want to do on here is just leave predominantly red, but just leave some stripes of yellow or honey running through the middle. You will see from this clip I put on the red and then I put on the honey, and I didn't particularly like what I'd done, so I sanded it nearly all off again. And I think I was much more pleased with my second attempt at it, with the sort of stripe of the honey running through the middle and just broken up by the red in a couple of places. I think it was much better finish. Here you can see I'm just using the heat gun just to dry the dye a bit quicker. It's me being impatient again. And now you can see from the picture I'm just sanding it all off. I'm going to start again. I went back to the red here with the flame just to try and darken it all up. Although I do like that honey, I think that's a lovely colour, lovely warm colour. It did seem to wash everything out. It looked very pale, very pastely, and I wanted stronger colours, especially from the red. I wanted something much bolder. Quite like that. Very good. So we'll just give that a couple of coats of oil and get back to you. Well, that's the finished article. That's Hampshire sheen, intrinsic colours. That's flame, which is the red, and the honey, which is the yellow. And then I've used a black as a base coat to highlight some of the grain. I finished that with 3 coats of finishing oil, Lebron's finishing oil, and it's not giving me the shine that I normally get, although I have to say it does look quite nice under those lights, but there's certainly a real depth of colour there. Well, there we go, YouTubers, another product. Another one rolls off the assembly line. I have to say, said it on my last project. The finish on there is unbelievable. I'm very pleased with that. Takes the colour lovely, stands up lovely. Sycamore is just a lovely piece of wood. I don't know why I've left it alone for so long. Probably because I've got so much ash down there. One of the reasons. So anyway, that's all done. Another product all done. As usual, I've been Steve Howe, and this has been another great day in my workshop. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.